subject that forms a core for the civil services, preliminary and the mains examination. We are going to start with a series of geography through maps and diagrams. That means complete geography to these maps and diagrams, factors that are influencing the climate of India. A lot of topics will be covered as per the syllabus of UPSC. Hello aspirants, welcome to PW OnlyIAS. I am here Harpreet Singh with a very interesting topic today. A subject that forms a core for the civil services, preliminary and the mains examination. That is geography. We are here to discuss the decoding of the geography syllabus for prelims and the mains examination. So let's start with this interesting session. A very important announcement. We are going to start with a series of geography through maps and diagrams. That means complete geography through these maps and diagrams on the PW OnlyIAS English channel, where every topic from the physical geography of India, the physical geography of world, to the human geography of India, to the human geography of the world would be covered in such a manner that you fall in love with geography and all the facts, all the diagrams and all the maps are ingrained in your head. So let us start firstly with what basically the syllabus is prescribed by the Union Public Service Commission and what are the hidden intricacies in all the topics that have been prescribed by UPSC. Let's begin. Firstly, this is a Telegram account where you can find this particular PDF in which all the board work would have been done. Along with it, a lot of resources that are important for your civil services preparation. Let's begin. Now, you will be seeing certain lines written on your board. Now, this is the geography syllabus along with the environment syllabus that is prescribed by the Union Public Service Commission for the preliminary examination. Let's have a look at that. It says Indian and world geography, physical, social, economic geography of India and the world. And with respect to environment, it basically says general issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. Now, the problem that arises is these are simply 3 to 4 lines that have been prescribed by the Union Public Service Commission. But when the questions come, many people feel that to what length do we need to study? So what we see, if we see the main syllabus, we will be seeing that it is much more detailed than the preliminary syllabus with respect to geography and for that matter, other subjects also. So what we need to do is, first, let us see the syllabus of mains also, what is prescribed by UPSC. And then what we're going to do is, we will break the syllabus into pointers and analyze what all we basically need to study and what all we will be studying in the series that are going to come up. Let's see the main syllabus. This is the preliminary syllabus. Let's see the main syllabus. First thing that is mentioned is the salient features of world's physical geography. Now, it is a very simple line they have mentioned that basically covers almost everything that comes in the physical geography of the world. So, second is important geophysical phenomena like earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, and other such types of geophysical phenomena that are going to take place. Next, geographical features and their locations. Changes in critical geographical features, including water bodies, ice caps. So certain changes taking place, let us say, due to climate changes. Let us say the ice cover in Antarctica decreasing. What impact can it have overall in the world scenario? Let us say rise of the sea level. What impact is it going to have on the islands for that matter? So all these things can basically be linked to these geographical phenomena. Next, and flora and fauna and the effects of the such changes that are taking place. Now, these are the lines that have been prescribed by UPSC. Along with it, we see the other dimensions. Over here, what we are seeing is focusing on the world physical geography and the various geographical phenomena that are taking place. Now, let us see the other part. Now, this part basically covers, let us say, the human and the economic aspects of geography. Distribution of the key natural resources across the world, including South Asia and Indian subcontinent. So, what all natural resources are found here? respect to whether it is mineral, whether it is water resources, land resources, petroleum, let us say bauxite, or let us say lignite, what all resources we can basically study, which is prescribed, let us say, in a form of the NCRTs, or the standard resources which we do, and something that is present in the current affairs becomes very important with respect to the geography syllabus for prelims as well as the mains examination. Now let us see factors responsible for the location of the primary, secondary, and the tertiary sector industries in the various parts of the world. Now, including India, for that matter, if you're studying an industry, let us say steel industry, what are the factors that are responsible? Then you need to study the case studies of, let us say, India, along with it, the various case studies of the world. Similarly, let us see if we are studying about one particular mineral, let us say gold. Location in India, other parts of the world, what are the factors that are being impacted? And so various dimensions associated with that. Let us say you can be asked with respect to, let us say, information technology industries. Are they dependent on the location? If not, why? Similarly, any question can be asked. It basically tests your aptitude, along with it, the basic knowledge that you have. So we see the factors that are responsible along with the details of those industries need to be known. Next is, again, the environment part, conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, environmental impact assessment, disaster, and the disaster management. Now, again, what happens? You need to know the basics of environment, conservation, the various laws, which will basically break down also with respect to the decipherment of the syllabus, and see what are the various intricacies that are basically hidden in the syllabus. Now, see, till now what we have done is, we have basically seen what the prelim syllabus is, what the prelims syllabus is for the UPSC, and what the main syllabus is. The problem that arises is, after reading the syllabus, something is going to go in your mind. What is basically the UPSC saying? This is your state. Now, what we have to do is, we have to decode to streamline your preparation. Now, understand what the syllabus demands. That is what is a core ingredient of the series that we are going to take place. Along with it, the today's agenda is understanding those minute details with respect to what the syllabus of UPSC demands. So let's begin with the decipherment. The first thing that I'm taking is with respect to the Indian geography. The heading is Indian geography. Now you'll be seeing something that along with every slide, I have basically made certain maps or certain diagrams. Now, this is basically a manifestation and representation of something, the way our series is going to go on. I'll be using maps, I'll be drawing maps on the board, I'll be marking them, making it easier for you to understand and also remember, right? So, with respect to the Indian geography, what are the various parts that you need to study? First is physiography of India. When I'm studying, or we're going to teach you the physiography of India, what do you need to know? See, first is the location. Where is India located? What are the various countries that border India? Now we need to study. These are the spatial locations that are important that can be asked in your preliminary examination. Like if India is 32,87,263 kilometers square, so we need to know what all countries border India. Now, these things become important for your prelims examination, along with it, because these relations basically determine the trade routes also. That impacts the economic and the human geography part. So, the location, what is the significance of the various physiographical features that are present? After you have studied these, then we will understand the significance. Now, understand the third part within this are the geological divisions. Under the geological divisions, you're going to study the peninsular region, the Himalayas, the Indo-Gangetic Brahmaputra plain. This is, we are going to study under the geological divisions. When we go with respect to the physiographic divisions, it will be divided into various parts. The Himalayas, then the northern plains, the desert region, that is the Thar Desert, the coastal plain, and the various islands. And we're going to study each and every island on which is important for UPSC. What is the formation of the Himalayan mountains? What are the segregations? What are the types? Along with the diagrams and the maps are going to be covered in the class in a very comprehensive and a systematic manner for you. So this is the first part under the physical geography of India. right? First is physiography of India. This is a basic representation of the various divisions that you can see. Now let us move ahead. Now this is again a very interesting part. The second thing we are going to study under the physical geography of India is the drainage system. Now this topic is very important because you need to understand what do you mean by the concept of drainage? What do you mean by the concept of drainage system? What is a watershed? How are these concepts different? So those concepts would be covered in detail, and it should be covered for your ability, because UPSC can check you on these minor concepts also, whether watershed includes these aspects or not, whether, let us say, the concept of drainage is this or not. These things can be asked. So over here we're going to study what are the drainage types, what are the drainage patterns. Then under this we are going to study the Himalayan drainage. Under the Himalayan drainage, you realize that the rivers basically coming out of from the Himalayas. And the three major drainage systems are the Indus drainage system, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra. Now, if you see this map that has been created on the board, it basically represents a comprehensive representation of the Indus drainage system. In similar manner, we are going to do all the drainage system for the Himalayas and obviously for the peninsular region also. So after completing this, possibly you will not be having any problem which river originates from what point, what is the probable length, what is the route being followed, which river is linking which other river. All these things will be covered in a comprehensive manner, which is basically the demand of the syllabus itself. Now, next is the peninsular drainage. The rivers that are basically in the peninsular region. Over here, we are going to read about the peninsular rivers, their path, their origination, distance, what all states they cross through. Small rivers flowing towards the east and the west. So these things are also a part of your peninsular drainage system. So these things are basically covered in your drainage system. Along with it, there are other dimensions like interlinking of rivers, what are the positive impacts, what are the negative impacts. Those things will also be covered in that drainage system, or should be a part of it, because that become important for your mains examination. But prior to that, you need to understand what the drainage system is. Now, as we move ahead, a very important topic, that is climate. Now, again over here, I have basically shown the climatic classifications over here. One of the maps are being represented here. When we are talking about climate, we need to understand what climate is in basic terms, and then factors that are influencing the climate of India. Multiple factors are there. We will study each of them in detail along with the maps and the diagrams that is expected. What is the concept of monsoon? Then what are the mechanism of monsoon? Along with them, we need to study the various theories that are there, like the classical theory, the modern theory, air mass theory, and the jet stream theory. So we do not have to go into a lot of length, but again, we need to know the basics, because then UPSC can ask you in your preliminary examination and also in your mains examination. Then what are the seasons, El Nino, La Nina, various climatic regions. Along with it, remember, the topic of climate change also becomes very, very important in this. The various latest updates that come, what is present in the newspapers or the current affair magazines, also become a very important dimension with respect to the climate topic with respect to India as well as the world. Now over here, you can see a map representing the various climatic zones or climatic regions of India. Let's move ahead. This is again a very important topic, climate. Next is soil. Now you will be seeing that again. Before proceeding, I've already made a map of the various types of soil that are present in India, whether we are talking about the alluvial soil, whether we're talking about the forest and the mountainous soil, black soil, laterite soil, red and yellow soil. So these are basically a representation of the types of soil over here. When we study soil, we will be studying what soil is, what are the classifications of soil, what all soils are present in India. Along with it, what is the soil texture, the issues of soil degradation and erosion, how we can conserve the soil. So these things become again very important with respect to the soil, because understanding of the soil and climate and vegetation are intricately linked to each other. The type of climate that you have in a region again influences the soil, again influences the vegetation. So all these things are linked and very important for your preliminary examination as well as your mains examination from the analytical point of view. Next, we are going to move on to the topic of vegetation. Now, again, you will be seeing here, I've created a brief map of how the natural vegetation map basically looks in India. In the topic of vegetation, with respect to the physical geography of India, what do you need to study? You need to study the types of forest in India, then the forest cover in India as per the latest reports, forest conservation, forest policies and scheme, what are the problems that are associated with that. All these things are basically covered under the topic of vegetation. And what are the various factors, like let us say globalization, let us say urbanization, that is impacting the natural vegetation. Along with it, please remember, the current affairs topics also play a very important role in the natural vegetation topic. Let us say entry of the invasive species. How, let us say, the pollution or the increasing pollution or the climate change is impacting the vegetation. We recently saw that green cover being visible in the Antarctic region. But that topic again is linked to the aspect of climate change, increasing temperature, and also the topic of vegetation. So we will be linking, or what is expected of an aspirant, that we need to link these topics while studying. So before that, these basic things should be very clear in your mind. Let's move ahead. Now see, these 5 sections form the core of your physical geography of India. Please remember, physical geography of India, these are the core ingredients. We are going to begin with this when we'll begin with the series also this week. So, physiography of India, drainage system, all these parts, climate, all these dimensions, soil, all these dimensions, vegetation, all these dimensions. So these are the core topics that should be deciphered and studied by you when you are preparing for the civil services examination. Now let us move ahead. Please see. World physical geography. Now see, we just saw the physical geography of India. Now comes the world's physical geography. Please understand something. You saw the syllabus that is prescribed by UPSC. Yes, everything is present there, but when you were reading the syllabus, all those topics that were present, you were not able to decipher in what detail you need to go, or what all topics need to be covered under this. So what we have done is we have made micro topics out of those topics that are present in the UPSC syllabus for your effective preparation. Now see over here. I basically created a diagram over here, the planet creation diagram, like how from the dust to the planet, one of the theories basically talks about this creation. So it is just a representation. So we'll be using such diagrams comprehensively to make you understand the topic very well. So in the first part of the world physical geography, we have the general geography. Now please understand, these are certain basics which you read in even in class 6th, 7th, 8th also. Now like theories of evolution, star formation, formation of planets, and various other topics that you basically miss while you're reading those topics. You assume that by reading simply the NCERT of class 11th and 12th, you possibly have covered everything. No. While doing the series, we're going to take those topics from those smaller classes also. In case you might have missed that, we'll be covering that so that you do not miss any single topic. So theories of evolution, star formation, formation of planets, and so on and so forth, all those dimensions will be covered in the universe. Next come the topics of Earth basics. Now these basics again, which generally the NCERTs of class 11th and 12th do not have. The concept of, let us say, evolution of Earth, geographical time scale in detail, and how these topics are related to the origin of life, right? Rotation and revolution, the concepts associated with them. If we say a 45-degree latitude, why that particular line is known as a 45-degree latitude? What are the reasons behind it? So all those dimensions would be covered in a diagrammatic manner so that you understand them very well. Earth's inclination and its effect. If this inclination, the axis of rotation is this, what is the reason why it is inclined? What impact does this inclination have on the Earth itself or the various aspects of Earth, which will be studied in these particular topics under the Earth's basics. As we move ahead, second topic, after the general geography, which includes the universe and the Earth's basic, we have the topic of geomorphology. Now, this is again a very important topic. Various questions are asked. Even if you see your NCERTs, you'll be seeing that these topics are dealt in detail, and you need to study it also in very detail so that Any question asked over here, you're able to mark them well and in a correct manner. Over here, geomorphology, we'll cover the topics of, let us say, the Earth's interior, the aspect of crust, the mantle, again, along with that, the various information sources. Over here, the core, the crust, mantle, and the core. Over here, we'll be covering the crust, upper mantle, lower mantle, outer core, the inner core. We'll be even dealing with the recent discoveries that have been there. We'll be also dealing with why this part is solid. What are the reasons behind it? And the various dimensions associated with that. Now, what are the information sources through which basically we get to know about them? Along with it, minerals and elements of the earth crust, their composition and to what extent they are present. Rocks and rock systems, we'll be studying the various types of rocks, whether it is igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks, all the processes that are involved. What is a rock cycle? What are the types? What are the classifications of rock? These are the things that should be known or studied in this topic. Next are the geomorphic processes. Now, various processes that are endogenetic and exogenetic taking place. A large classification is there, which you're going to study each of them in detail. Distribution of the continents and the oceans. Now, these includes a lot of theories also along with the concept. For example, you'll have to study the concept of continental drift theory, plate tectonics, the concept of seafloor spreading, and all the concepts and evidences that are there in order to support these theories. Now, these are present in your NCRTs also, and obviously these have been asked in your prelims as well as your mains examination, so these become very important. Then we have the various landforms and their evolution, the depositional processes and the erosional processes that are taking place. So these are himself a wide list. Whether you're talking with respect to, let us say, wind erosion, whether you're talking with respect to sea erosion, whether we're talking about, let us say, karst topography, all these things become a very important ingredient while we're dealing with the depositional or the erosional landforms. Now, when we come to the other part, we realize that what is weathering and what are the various types are going to be studied over here. Along with it, the various other aspects like earthquakes, volcanoes, and all the related topics that we basically study under geomorphology as various geophysical phenomena that are taking place. So all these things would be covered in depth or should be covered in depth when you are dealing with the topic of geomorphology. Let's move ahead. Next topic in the geography syllabus with respect to the world physical geography is oceanography, where you're studying the aspect of oceans and the various dimensions associated with oceans. First is hydrosphere, oceans and seas. Next is the hydrological cycle, or in the simple words, you talk about the water cycle. We have the relief features. What all relief features are present here? For example, we have seen abyssal plains, continental rise, continental slope, a continental shelf. Along with it, we need to study that there are major relief features, there are minor relief features, what are the characteristics, how they're different from each other. All these things basically come under the relief features. Now we see that temperature, salinity of the ocean water. We will be seeing the distribution, let us say, from a horizontal spatial aspect as well from a vertical aspect as we go inside the ocean. What are the variations in the temperature, along with it, the salinity? So these both things have to be studied. It has been asked in UPSC. Again, it becomes relevant for your analysis for prelims and mains. Then density of the ocean water. Obviously, these three things are related to each other: temperature, salinity, and density. So we'll be studying them together. Now, aspects of waves, ocean currents, and tides. Over here, what are they? What are the types that there are there? What are the possible theories? A little bit we need to know. What impacts do they create on the various coastal regions? And obviously the intricacies associated with these. Are there certain changes going on with respect to the climatic changes taking place? Are they impacting them? So these things will also be studied in this particular topic. Marine resources, again, what all resources are there in the, let us say, in the oceans and the seas? Along with it, ocean deposits and the corals. Along with the corals, one is expected to study the dimensions of coral bleaching. What are the various types of corals? Corals that are found at a lesser depth, and even we have another type of corals, which are deep sea corals. Now, UPSC hasn't asked question on them, but it can ask you questions. What are the deep sea corals? How are they different from the ones which we generally talk about? What is the concept of coral bleaching? How does it impact the ecosystem of the region? All these things again become very important. So these things are basically studied in the topic of oceanography, that is for the world physical geography. Now, let us move to the other aspect, that is climatology. Now, it again by the word easily represents we are studying the dimensions of climate. Over here, you'll be seeing, we'll be studying, or what is expected of you is studying the atmosphere and all the dimensions. What are the various layers into which we can divide the atmosphere? What are the characteristics of all? What are the role played by all? What are the various phenomena associated with them? So all these things or every aspects of the atmosphere is again studied here. Then temperature and temperature inversions. Basically, what are the temperature changes that take place when you're moving, let us say, if you raise your altitude, if you move up the atmosphere, what are the changes taking place? What are the processes involved in that? Along with it, what is the concept of temperature inversion? Then we studied the concept of insulation and heat budget, how basically the temperature is maintained. All these things are studied in the heat budget. What is the concept of wind and the pressure belts? Then we study the concept of air masses, fronts, cyclones, thunderstorm, tornadoes, concept of monsoon. The monsoon, this topic is generally covered in your Indian physical geography, but again, over here also, because it is an important element, you're studying the world physical geography, the monsoon is generally mentioned here also. Okay, now, over here you will be seeing how the fronts are basically formed. A brief diagram is being represented here. Then the concept of precipitation. What is precipitation? What are the types of precipitation and the various dimensions associated with it? Even the distribution of precipitation also becomes very important if you want to analyze the geographical aspects in a proper depth. Then are the climatic zones of the world and the topic of climate change. Again, this this particular point is more associated with current affairs, but remember, when you are preparing for the mains examination in particular, see, you can be asked any question on the climate change. You should be having at least 1-page note with respect to certain facts, certain diagrams and figures, which when the question is asked, you have certain ready-made introductions and let us say even the conclusion. And then based on what the demand of the question is, you can possibly use those dimensions in current climate change also. And that becomes very, very important when you are studying this. Okay, let's move ahead. Next is biogeography. Now over here, we realize that at the world level, now these are the various horizons that we have seen with respect to the soil. We'll be seeing what the soil is, what are the characteristics. Now this is at the world level. When we were doing the dimension of soil or reading the soil with respect to India, that was with respect to India per se. But this is with respect to the world. What are the characteristics? What are the soil formation processes? What are the classifications of the soil across the world? What is soil erosion and how it is distributed, obviously. Now, vegetation, what are the types, distribution, characteristics, and the problems across the world? For example, we are facing the issue of the Amazon desert being depleted. Now, you will be realizing that its depletion will impact overall the ecosystem in the world. That is why these things can be related to the topic of climate change. They can be related to the topic of current affairs, and that can be asked in your examination, in your prelims and even in your mains examination. Please remember, when we read these topics, magazines like Down to Earth become very important, because that generally when we're going to cover the series, we'll be covering those topics also, because those topics are picked up. Topics from the Down to Earth magazine are generally picked up and put in your preliminary examination and your mains examination also. So those would be combined in these topics for your comprehensive analysis. Now, see, till here was the physical geography part of the world, right? Again, let's see, have a look at it. General geography covering the universe and its dimensions. Earth basics, which we saw. We saw geomorphology on all the subtopics. Oceanography, all the subtopics. Climatology, all the subtopics. Biogeography, the dimensions of soil and vegetation and the dimensions associated with them. Now comes the human geography of the world and India. Please remember, when the topic of human geography is covered, it is better to take India and the world together. Now over here, a lot of topics will be covered as per the syllabus of UPSC. Now see, like we are going to study demography. What is demography? The study of the population. Demography. Demo means your people. Graphy means your study of the people. Over here, we is expected to study the census data of obviously India, The 2011 census is the latest data. Along with it, with respect to the world, we need to refer to the United Nations report, what all, let us say, population is across the world and the dimensions impacting them. That would also be, should be covered in, let us say, using a map on a diagram that basically helps you to remember. Factors that are responsible, the distribution, certain theories need to be known, right? Composition. Now, composition itself, please remember, varies. Now, this is based on various parameters. Composition in a way, male, female, or let us say the other gender. It can also be on the basis of age composition. It can also be on the basis of other parameters which we are going to study. So, composition can be from various dimensions. So, what are the problems of the population? What are the schemes? What is the concept of human development? All these things at in India and a world level needs to be studied. Now, when we study the primary sector, dimensions of hunting, gathering, herding, livestock, agriculture and mining, and all the dimensions, the distribution, the impact, the changes taking place have to be studied with respect to all of them. Like itself, if you take the topic of agriculture, you will be having n number of topics, types of agriculture, classification of agriculture, the problems associated with them, the schemes, and all these things are basically covered over here. Now, as we move ahead, and along with them, for each of them, the factors that are responsible for them, as mentioned in the UPSC syllabus, becomes very important. Secondary sector, the manufacturing and the industries. Now, you will be having n number of industries, whether it is agro-based industries, seal industries, and all the industries which we see in India across the world. All those things will be covered under the secondary sector. These topics are a little lengthy also because we have to generally cover a lot of industries over here. But again, once you understand the factors that are impacting the locations, let us say, when we talk about raw material, we talk about the resources with respect to, let us say, other dimension, let us say electricity supply. Let us say whether the government policies or how they're impacting the particular region. When these things at broad parameters are clear to you, then what happens is it becomes easier for you to grasp the locations. Next is the tertiary, quaternary, and the quinary services related to transport, communication, trade, commerce, banking, all these dimensions come over here. Next, we cover the topic of settlements, types, then forms and distributions in India and across the world, and the dimensions of energy. All the other small topics are basically also covered in these as the subtopics. Now, this is basically the representation of the syllabus that is expected of you from the general studies perspective. Now, you would have seen. Now, let us see one more thing. Let's see. Let us go back to the syllabus that is given by UPSC. You see these 3 slides are mentioned here, right? 3 slides. When we're talking mainly about geography, we're seeing, okay, you get an idea of what they're seeing, little bit dimensions and all. But when you start studying, you are basically confused at what this syllabus entails. That is where our role comes. Deciphering each of them and it going into detail of every dimension becomes very important from our perspective. So, keeping this in mind, we are coming up with the geography, that is physical geography of India, then world, then complete human geography, through the maps, diagrams, and explanation of all those topics in such a way that you start loving it, not in a way that you just keep on studying geography, but to what is required by the civil services examination, and for you to score very good marks, not only in your prelims, but also in your mains examination, and also along with it, learn the practical value of geography. Because very often we realize that when questions in the mains examination come, like when the question was asked that various battles have been fought at let us say, Panipat. What are the reasons that war was fought there? Now, many people assumed basically that the war or that question over there is associated with the dimensions of history. Yes, one of the points can be added. But the thing is that it was basically a geography question. Now, when you read the topic of location of industries, the factors, physiographic divisions, you know the geography of those regions, then listing a points or multiple points, let us say even 10 points could be put over here. Those become easy. So these are the practical value or practical aspects of the geography dimension that you need to understand. That is going to be explained. So hopefully you liked the interaction that we had. you liked the deciphering of the syllabus, this particular PDF would be available to you in this Telegram account. You can just download it from it. Along with it, when the series comes, you can also see the various dimensions. We're going to start with the physical geography of India. And the first topic we're going to take is the drainage system. And comprehensively, all the dimensions of the drainage system will be covered over here. And then move on to the other topics. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it is going to help you in various dimensions and ways that will aid your civil services preparation for prelims and for mains. And at last, getting you the goal that you are aiming for. Take care, God bless, and Jai Hind.